The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews back in Washington. Let me start tonight with this. The demolition campaign on anything Obama continues its relentless run even today, with protesters out in the streets of Washington denying this presidency's legitimacy, joined now by new assaults on his executive role itself. The goal, now in plain sight for everyone to see, is to erase this president's election and re-election, replacing it with a Republican-enforced shutdown, not just on getting health care to the tens of millions lying desperately in emergency rooms today, but on everything, on every progressive front. It's not an overstatement to say right now that every notion, even the very notion of elected self-government, is now openly and shamelessly under assault. What the president's enemies now intend is nothing less than expunging his presidency and its legacy from the history books before that legacy is even written. Clarence Page is a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist with the Chicago Tribune, and Ron Reagan is a former radio talk show host and MSNBC contributor. Anyway, the Tea Party is waging a war in an effort to nullify the president's very existence as an American. These are some of the highlights from a Tea Party rally today in Washington, D.C., which included activist Larry Klayman, who has accused the president of being a Muslim, among other strange ideas. Take a listen.
We don't want to return to the days of 1776, when we had to rise up, when we had King George III, who was far less worse than Barack Hussein Obama.
We've heard the litany of high crimes and misdemeanors perpetrated by the occupant of the White House.
The birth certificate released by Mr. Obama and the White House is a fake, a fraud, and a lie.
Our socialist president, or our president who favors Muslim interest over American interest in the Middle East.
Let me go right now to Clarence. It's not just the wackos in the street, like those guys. It's not just them with this constant attack, this fusillade of attack that the president's not the president, he's not an American, et cetera, which you could laugh at. But there's an organized establishment wing to this effort, which is now to make sure he doesn't have any of the powers of the presidency. For example, we all have learned the power of the courts in this country. They're the ones that can pass laws like Citizens United, which means the more money you got, the more votes you got. They're trying to take over the courts. They won't even let him appoint judges. Here's Tea Party Republicans like Ron Paul, that's the father of Rand Paul, out attacking the president's authority as commander-in-chief. This is Paul at a recent rally for Ken Cuccinelli across the river here in Virginia, where they talk about nullification. This is the stuff that Martin Luther King talked about the lips dripping with nullification. Anyway, here it is talking about the president's entire government.
Nullification is going to come. It's going to be a de facto nullification if it's not legalized, because pretty soon things are going to get so bad that we're just going to ignore the feds and run our own lives in our own states.
Well, you can laugh at that and call it Festus Haggis, country talk, but this is all over now. It's in Virginia here. Then there's this I word, of course, out there, impeachment. Red Hots in the Ted Cruz wing have made it their mantra. Here's Texas Republican David Duhertz, the state's lieutenant governor, firing up the base at a Tea Party event last month.
Barack Obama ought to be impeached. Not only trampling on our liberties, but what he did in Benghazi is just, it's a crime, just a crime.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.